Hey everybody, this is Dragnix here. I wanted to show off a little bit of the game design elements that I point out during my videos. This is for purposes of people who I'm asking keys for, in terms of, hey, this is some of the stuff that I do, but not only that, to give people some understanding of what I do on the channel at this point. And so here are some of the highlights of the videos that I've done over the last couple of weeks, months, pretty much the year in fact. So take a look, and I will see you guys later. Again, expect Holy Potatoes and Gilded Dungeoneering in the next 2 days. I would have done Holy Potatoes, but there was a little bit of a bug with it. So, right. Now let's take a look at the situation. You got 3 zombies behind a door that's actually locked. Now, this is sort of one of those situations where it's like, okay, let's take a look at the surroundings here. So going into this, we see the ladder and the door up here. Now we know that the boost mechanic is present, so we're most likely going to go up towards that location of the door. Now, with the zombies next to the door here, there would be an idea that maybe going up that door and maybe getting a jump on the zombies here would actually help us later on, as we wouldn't have to deal with the zombies in question over there. At this point in the game, there's not been a situation where you didn't want to kill a zombie in question, where a zombie was presented to you and you didn't actually have to avoid it. So it makes sense for you to try to take them out right here and right now. Now, here's the thing, though. Now, you've noticed that you got the bars there, and it would seem like you would want to take advantage of that, right? Now, and at first, I don't realize that, and I actually start shooting them. Let's actually go right to that right now. Alright, so I shoot them a couple of times and then realize that maybe, just maybe, that wasn't the best idea. But I realized that I got my knife, and so, okay, I shoot him once again, but then I decide, okay, there's a knife here. So I'm trying to take advantage of my situation here. I've got them behind bars, I've got zombies there. You know, let's take them out. Now, I do somehow take damage there, which, okay, didn't realize I could take that, but it's working effectively at this point. Alright, cool. I'm taking advantage of the situation. I'm taking advantage of what the game has thrown at me. At least I'm thinking I am. Now, I do a lot of swipes here, and I heal myself at this point, and then I go to take the 3rd zombie away. Okay, one shot didn't actually kill him, and or it drafted his attention. Wait, why is he not dying?
Really?
Oh, he's a zombie that wasn't exactly supposed to be shot at. This is where I have problems with games. That zombie's cinematic, and you'll notice here, wait a minute, all those zombies are back. What's going on? I just took care of all those zombies. Well, you see, there's the problem now, isn't it? You see, this is the problem here. Those zombies were only for show. Those zombies were only there for the purpose of this cutscene and this cutscene alone. I didn't get a jump on them. I didn't use my resources wisely. I just wasted my bullets and wasted my time by taking out those zombies in question, who are just part of the scenery at this point. And that's where I have a major problem with Resident Evil Revelations 2. The kind of presentation in terms of the gameplay, where the narrative is a little bit more important than the actual interactive narrative, is a major flaw with games nowadays. They're only there for cutscenes or for show. A lot of games don't understand how to guide a player or introduce the game's mechanics in a natural way. They either assume the player can figure it out on his own or don't do a good job of highlighting the strengths of the game. But I'm not talking about just simple mechanics, but I'm talking about getting deep into the game's mechanics. You could easily teach a player how to hit a button to punch, to kick, to activate a special power, but it's a whole another thing to tell the player how to apply those skills. Fighting games are a prime example of this. Any old fighting game can bring up a command list and show you, hey, if you hit the joystick in a quarter circle from down to toward your opponent and hit punch, you'll fire a fireball at your opponent. The question becomes, when does it make sense to fire that fireball? What special properties does the fireball have that will give you an advantage over your opponent? It's what separates good players from great players, knowing when to use your tools to exploit your opponent. If you ever have a chance, play through Skullgirls tutorials. It's a prime example of how to show the player how to best survive and fight to the best of your abilities. But tutorials are only one way of doing it. How about in a single player game like Bayonetta 2? Well, this is something Bayonetta 2 does excellent, and it's all through one mechanic of the game, the optional Muspelheim missions. For those who haven't played the game or haven't watched any videos about the game, Muspelheim missions are optional missions that introduce a small objective in a combat scenario to the player with a reward of permanent help or magic upgrades. On the surface, it just seems like a way to give the player items for completing objectives, giving them a reward for doing a task, but that's only on the surface. It's what the player has to do and what the player learns while doing it. That's where the true strength of these challenges lie. And let's take a few examples of it. Among the first set of Muspelheim challenges that you are given is the challenge of only doing damage to the enemy in Witch Time. For those who don't know, Witch Time is a mechanic they introduced in the Bayonetta series, where if you dodge the last moment of an enemy's attack, you are rewarded with your enemies being slowed down in time, allowing you to punish them with a barrage of damage, or allows you to reposition yourself to a better fighting location. So the goal in this is simple: get Witch Time to activate and kill your enemies. And that's where the brilliance behind these focused challenges begin. So walloping on your enemies with combos won't work here. Button mashing? Nuh-uh. You can attack them all you want, but it won't make a difference. So you have to wait for them to attack you. It forces a bit of patience on the player. Let the enemy come to you and hit them hard when they mess up. And the player, when completing the challenge, will notice something: that you hit hard in Witch Time and can do massive damage while in it. So you've reinforced this mechanic with the player, but it won't play into the main combat sequence, right? Wrong. A prime example is what you'll see in my Bayonetta 2 playthrough, in particular with a reoccurring boss fight with the Lumen Sage. Well, let's say the first battle with him didn't go so well. I wasn't thinking, was attacking without really any strategy in mind, and it resulted in repeated deaths over and over again. I finally beat it after dying only a mere 15 times, but one of my friends mentioned that most likely, if it's like any Platinum Games tradition, that boss will show up again. Sure enough, that boss showed up again. I sat down and wondered, damn it, there's gotta be an easier way to do this. Well, this time I had a helpful reminder in the same level, as a lesson that was reinforced with the demon version of the enemies earlier in the level, that being the Witch Time challenge. So I went into the fight realizing that maybe being more passive, let him coming to me, and then doing the damage in question during Witch Time was the best strategy I had. But what was the result? That despite him having more tactics and more range of attacks this time around, I died only twice to him, compared to the 15 times the first time around. And that's the strength. I had learned an alternate strategy to dealing with him, and I used it to the best of my ability successfully. I didn't have to do that side mission. I could have just skipped it, but doing it gave me a tool that made me a lot more powerful because of it. And that's the brilliance of the teaching tool Platinum Games implemented. Okay, let's go over the first one. So, in the real world, there are going to be fears that in which you are going to run into that may devour you. Like the seeds, these seeds. There's representations of exactly what those seeds are. Like, what could they mean in terms of the social anxiety disorder? But if I escape to the real world, or the alternate world, those seeds don't hurt me. The idea here is that maybe the seeds represent, I don't know, people. Maybe they represent people who are vicious. Maybe that they'll devour you at any second. They'll take advantage of you. Or they will just rip you apart. There's symbolism there. And in my mind, the symbolism in general works. Now, again, that's going to be very much based on your own experiences and the people that you are related to, people that you know. The word you wanted to use there, though. So, again, now, like, this is a good example. Like, I could go here and try to precision jump on all these platforms, but it's easier for me to just do that, escape to my own world. Is that healthy? That's a sort of a concept behind it. Should I have to escape to that world in order to get over something that's tough? Again, a very much an emotional and a sort of psychological take on things. And it's interesting that the game went the route that they did. It's, again, very much based on the experience. 4 types of quirks: red for construction, blue for destruction, green for protection, and yellow for motion. You will use the quirks in combination with each other to give your cat the various abilities that he has at his disposal. The abilities range from the ability to move around the map with such things as a helicopter, using 3 yellow quirks, to destroying parts of the maps using powers such as the missile, 2 blue quirks and 1 yellow quirk. In addition, you have support ones, such as one of the main abilities you'll need, netting the foes you need to get back into their cages, using a green, yellow, and red quirk. The combinations all here are unique, and the first section of the game introduces you to most of the combinations in question and shows you an example of when they'd be used. You'll pick up the quirks as you go along and use them up as you use abilities. So picking up as many quirks as you find is key in sections, just to have the options available on hand. But the place where the game shines is the more open sections of the game, where quirks are scattered all about, and you have a lot more freedom to use any combo you want. Here's where the brilliant design comes in. To capture the enemies in question, you'll need to first stun the enemy in question so that you can capture him with a net. Now, you can melee without using a quirk, but a good amount of the time you won't have that option, as you will have to use the quirks to stun them. In this case, you will most likely need a blue destruction quirk, as most of the offensive abilities center around him. You then need to capture them with the green, yellow, red net combo. What's brilliant here is that the gameplay is just the right amount of ease and difficulty. You see, you may develop a favorite combo to catch quirks, such as using the trap power that uses 2 blue and 1 red, or 1 red and 2 blue. But sooner or later you'll run low on those quirks. Now on these sections of the map, the quirks do respawn on where you find them, and you're more than willing to run back and grab the quirks you need again to continue using what you're used to. However, those not wanting to backtrack will want to get more creative with their use of quirks, and use the quirks they have more on hand so that they have the ability to capture or stun quirks without running back later on. In short, there is unlimited ammo in the section, but you have to run to get it. And that's where it shines. If you get frustrated with attempting to get a monster with your favorite quirk present, there's no reason you can't run back and get more of the quirks in question, but of course you're wasting your time in that case. But it rewards you for using your head, such as creating a trampoline for your cat to bounce on so you can get into the melee range, for example. This is how you make a game accessible, where those with different mindsets have the same ability to complete the puzzles in question. Alright, I wanted to bring this back into the actual Wii portion of it, because Symbolism is designed for this guy, right here. And I want to show you exactly why. I'm going to put this video on in the background. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Now you see the movement of the actual ship on the screen. This, the Wii remote, it makes sense. I point the controller at the screen, and the ship would move based on where I'm pointing it at, and where to fire, aka the A button at this point. So the thing is that with the other controls, it doesn't make a lot of sense with the actual arrow keys, because you don't have a real understanding what you're pointing at. However, here, it's based on my position on the screen. It may not exactly be 100%, but you'll get an idea of where you need to go at every point, as opposed to the relative position in which you would do it with the arrow keys. Now, why do I make a big deal about this? Because obviously, there isn't anything on the computer side that would be able to simulate this, right? I'm being facetious there, because of course there is. A mouse. You see, these two are relatively the same. You point it somewhere on the screen and you click it. Simple enough. So why not implement the controls like this? Now granted, you do have one extra thing you would have to do there, because the relative position isn't as easy. Here, pointing at the screen, this is based on a different axis at that point. It's a whole different system. But you put a reticule on the screen, simple enough. Pretty simple. In fact, the reticule could be the ship itself. Alright. Easy. But instead, they chose to use this. Now that's where I have a problem with the design. These two? Not very similar now, are they? But these two make a lot of sense. Game design. Simple enough. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you like this content and want to see more of it, you may want to hit that subscribe button on the left hand side. If you like this video and want to see more of this content, take a look at this video on the left hand side as well. And if you've missed my last video, take a look at the right hand side. Once again, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.